Hello people, Edwin Learnard here. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the chart of Jodi Arias. As we know, she's in a high-profile murder trial right now, and I just want to talk about some things associated with her natal chart and, maybe connected with her personality somewhat. So here goes. Well, the first thing about Jodi Arias, I want to say that, most of you probably know she is a Cancer. Her birth date is July 9th, 1980. She was born in Monterey County, California. The time is somewhat speculative. What I'm going to give on this is based on something I looked up on the internet, and I don't know if this is 100% reliable, but there were things that I saw that intimated that maybe she has Aries rising. So I gave her a 12:30 a.m. birth time and put Aries on the first house cusp. And that's the first thing I want to talk about, that if she does indeed have Aries rising, I would go with that as opposed to maybe a late Pisces rising, which what I was reading on the internet might have indicated could have been a late Pisces rising. But I think Aries rising would fit her more, firstly because the physical appearance and stature, that she is slender and in build and lean, and as far as her body type goes, and she does kind of have the emphasized cheekbone, somewhat triangular shaped face, which could be indicative of Aries rising. And Aries, obviously, personality can be militant, might be easily provoked. They'll have the forgive and forget philosophy. And thing is, what's odd is that her sun sign, being in Cancer, if she has Aries rising, would be in a conflict with that, because the Cancer energy obviously is compassionate and emotional and sympathetic, while the Aries is is more of just like kind of a very assertive and more extroverted, outgoing and aggressive, which is kind of goes against the Cancer, contradicts the Sun in Cancer tendency. So that's where we can see some inner conflict with her. Another thing too is, okay, her moon is in Gemini, and moon in Gemini can be mercurial, changeable, unpredictable, and possibly in the negative aspect can be conniving. Another thing I notice in her horoscope, which I think is a pretty strong point, is the fact that the ruler of her 8th house would be in the positive in the 7th house, and that would be Pluto. And Pluto would be conjuncting the ascendant and opposing, conjuncting the descendant and opposing the ascendant. And right there, if you have Pluto, tied in with the 8th house of sex and in partnerships, Pluto is power, can be power driven. Pluto is associated with sex. You have Pluto very well opposing the ascendant, which could show turbulent relationships and turmoil connected with those, whether it be partnerships and or relationships, which could possibly be destructive and combative. And obviously, it would be no surprise to me if that was actually accurate, and Pluto was in her 7th house. Another thing I noticed in her chart, which I thought was interesting, was the moon conjunct Venus in her chart. And sometimes in the negative, lighter aspect, moon conjunct Venus people, they can put on their phony charm and politeness in order to possibly manipulate others and get what they want. And this obviously seems very accurate as far as Jodi Arias is concerned. Her Neptune opposes her Venus in her natal horoscope. That could indicate delusion and deception in love, and possibly idealism associated with a partner, and somebody. She might be the kind of person that fantasized about what her true love should be, but maybe didn't really pan out to what she really wanted, and might have deluded herself in some ways in association with love. Another thing in her horoscope is that she has a bold pattern in her chart, and bold pattern people can be very self-contained, a lot of times they could have a certain loyalty to some cause or advocate a certain cause, but they have to be careful not to let this loyalty and dedication convert into, just being intransigent or overly stubborn while pursuing a certain cause. Another thing that I noticed in Jodi Arias' natal chart is that she has a plethora of conjunctions in it. And when you have a number of conjunctions in a natal chart, just in general, I mean, that could cause friction in the personality. And you see this in a number of cases with, people, if they exhibit any volatile or violent tendencies, which I believe, she very well may have, based on, the charge with her and the fact that she has admitted that, to doing what she's doing, although the reason is for what she's saying is different than what, she's been accused of, obviously. What I wanted to say, though, as far as that goes, that could indicate, some kind of truculent, volatile, behavior, and you have all this friction building up, and it, it could be somewhat, causes anger and turmoil inside the person. So, all these conjunctions in her chart could, very well be the cause of that. Another thing that I notice is that she has Venus retrograde in her natal horoscope. And Venus retrograde, retrograde is when a planet is moving in reverse or in a backwards motion. And Venus retrograde, may have some kind of procrastination, or, that elusive love that the person's looking for is not always, found readily. Venus is also connected with things, that are money related and monetary, and, that's something that could have evaded her as well, causing some frustration and, making, what she really wanted to make in terms of money, and maybe not attaining it very easily. Another thing that I like to, point out with her is that you have her ruler of her 10th house, and a ruler of her 10th house is actually, it's in Saturn, and Saturn is, I guess we could say, Saturn is, the ruler of the cusp of her 10th house, and the cusp of the 10th house would be Capricorn, and that could show, certain, possibly on one good note to her, certain ambitious qualities with Jodi Arias. And being in her, the ruler of her 10th, I believe, based on the, I guess you could say, the speculative chart that I have, or I believe it was in her ruler of her 10th was in her 6th. That I don't remember 100%, so don't quote me on this. And obviously, her work and, her work and livelihood are obviously, the career ambitions and work would be somewhat interwound and tied together somewhat in this particular case. A thing that I noticed also in her horoscope was something, a mutable T-square, and a mutable T-square can indicate somebody that vacillates a lot, can be very fickle and changeable, could indicate some unpredictability in the nature. And the two planets that she had that were opposing each other are the two, I guess we could say, the proponents that might be causing exasperation in this configuration in her chart. And those two planets were Venus and Neptune. And Venus, as we know, governs love, and then the Neptune, you have the planet of illusion and deception, delusion, idealism, and confusion, and you have that, interwound, with each other, Venus and Neptune. Could, the combination, those being in opposition to each other, could have also caused, some exasperation in Jodi Arias's, in her nature. And it just, I think, really in summation with her horoscope, is that, there's obviously, a number of contradictions, like, you'll see in many natal charts. The fact that she has, she has the couple planets in Cancer, shows the ability, to be emotional, compassionate, sympathetic. If she indeed has Aries rising, which is almost like, as far as the feeling nature, is almost the antithesis of Cancer, then you have, the moon in Gemini, which really is generally not emotionally exuberant and sees things, tries to see things from an objective vantage point, as far as their emotions go. And I think it's just the fact that she has so many conflicting energies in her chart is what maybe makes her, somewhat, the way, she is and how we see her. Another thing I wanted to say on the subject of her Cancer planets, that one being a Sun in Cancer, and she has Mercury in Cancer. Mercury in Cancer is retrograde. So not only at times when she talks she can sound, emotional, but the retrograde part can make it so where sometimes maybe she's misconstrued by others when she's speaking, and maybe not always readily understood. What she might be trying to verbalize and what she really means sometimes can be two completely different things. And that's what makes her kind of an enigma, I think, to people as well. It's partly because of that, that Mercury being retrograde. Mercury in Cancer also can be a good off-the-cuff speaker that can extemporize and has the ability to speak off the cuff. And anybody that's watched her trial, I'm not lauding her for this, but she does have an ability to seem like to come up with an answer for virtually any statement, whether even when a prosecuting defender comes across as someone interrogating, forceful and aggressive, she seems to stay composed and get that answer, and gives her a pretty quick rebuttal to it. And I think that could be somewhat attributed to her moon, not the Mercury in Cancer somewhat, but the moon in Gemini, ability to intellectualize things and be able to verbalize things when she has to. And well, I guess that'll pretty much be doing it. The one other thing I wanted to get is that I didn't mention yet, is that her ruler of the 10th is conjunct Mars, and according to the I guess you could say the speculative chart that I did with Aries in the first house, Capricorn would be on the 10th, and I guess the 10th is like the standing in the community, and the fact that that ruling planet does conjunct Mars, the planet of anger, it shows that her notoriety that she has somewhat is connected with that, I guess we could say Mars, that anger, and something that was connected with a volatile act, unfortunately. Well, people, I want to conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Jodi Arias natal chart, even though it is speculative. The things that are definitely accurate are whatever I talked about as far as aspects made from planet to planet. Anything connected with a house cusp, of course, is going to be somewhat speculative. And like I said, I don't know 100% if Jodi Arias does have Aries rising, but if she did, then what I'm saying would is obviously it would be more 100% accurate. But the speculative thing is whether she actually does have Aries rising or not, because I haven't confirmed or clarified this 100%. But like I said, the planets, they're all everything planet to planet is accurate. The configuration that I was talking about, mutable T-square, is accurate. So that's basically what we know. And the planets and the signs are accurate, such as the moon in Gemini. And like I said, I'm going to still continue my series with the aspects in a horoscope, and the next one is going to be the one with the ascendant and an adverse major aspect to the moon, I believe, will be the next one. And until then, people, I'm out of here, and stay well.